The real-world impact of the president's decision today to hold fast to that August 31st withdrawal deadline with former Army flight surgeon and Afghanistan veteran, Tennessee Congressman Mark Green. And former Green Beret also served in Afghanistan, Florida Congressman Michael Waltz, and former Ambassador at Large for Counterterrorism Nathan Sales. Thank you all for being with us tonight.
Thanks, Shannon.
I want to start with this breaking news that a couple of members of Congress, Republican and Democrat, have decided to go over to Kabul to check things out for themselves. Seth Moulton and Peter Meyer, they are getting blasted by a lot of folks out there who say it's absolutely crazy that they went over, that they, quote, took seats on a flight that could have gotten other people out. I want to read a little bit of their statement about why they did this. They say, as members of Congress, we have a duty to provide oversight on the executive branch. We conducted this visit in secret to minimize the risk and disruption to the people on the ground, and because we were there to gather information, not to grandstand. We left on a plane with empty seats, seated in crew-only seats to ensure that nobody who needed a seat would lose one because of our presence. Congressman Green, I'll start with you. Good idea, bad idea? What are you hoping they may be able to tell you from having been there on the ground?
Well, I think it's a bad idea because, quite honestly, the men and women of our military who are there have a mission to secure that airfield. Now they got to protect 2 United States congressmen. I think there'll be plenty of opportunity to do after-action reviews. The military will look very hard at how this has been conducted, how their job at least has been conducted. So I think that it's probably a bad idea. It's going to take resources when they're on the ground there to protect them.
Well, they supposedly are gone and back, or at least in transit on the way back. I want to play something from a number of Democrats who are members of Congress and happen to be veterans as well. I'm not sure if all of them are, but let's hear from them and their take on this, because this isn't just Republicans calling out the chaos.
The deadline is when the mission is accomplished and we bring our people home. Full stop.
Our office alone has received over 6,000 requests. Many of these requests are from families with multiple people seeking support.
I do not believe that this can be accomplished by August 31st, and I've requested that the SecDef and SecState encourage the president in the strongest possible terms to reconsider that deadline.
Congressman Waltz, you have been there, you have served there. We're hearing from across the political spectrum people saying there is no way they think it's possible we're going to get everybody out. Americans, much less those who assisted us as well. How worried are you that we get to August 31st, the president doesn't budge, and essentially we have thousands of people in that country who could potentially be considered hostages?
Yeah, Shannon, we were all, the entire House, in a briefing today with the Secretary of Defense, Secretary of State, Director of National Intelligence, and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and the frustration was palpable, both sides of the aisle, that we cannot leave Americans behind. We are the United States, and we do not leave American citizens behind. This deadline is nuts, frankly, and it's arbitrary and it's made up. This isn't a political issue. We have congressional offices that are acting like operations centers, making phone calls to airport managers, helping people get through Taliban checkpoints, and we're having to work around the bureaucracy and the incompetence of this White House, State Department, and Pentagon in some cases. So the frustration is through the roof. And one thing that came out of that briefing today was clear, was that it's not a matter of if, but when Al-Qaeda comes roaring back. And as we head into the 20th anniversary of 9/11, that is unacceptable. America is less safe because of this decision.
Yeah, and these optics, they're clearly getting through to the average American out there. USA Today's Suffolk University poll says, how is President Biden doing with withdrawing U.S. troops from Afghanistan? 26% approve, 62% disapprove. Ambassador, do you think that would play any role in encouraging the White House, encouraging the president to possibly change course or strategy with what we're doing now, the public pressure?
Well, I sure hope so, Shannon. It's not too late to change course and make sure that we don't turn the mistakes we've made so far into absolute catastrophes. The notion that the United States would ask the Taliban for permission to rescue our own citizens is just ludicrous. Superpowers don't say please. superpowers impose their terms on terrorists. And if the Taliban has a problem with that, I'm sure that there are plenty of soldiers and Marines who would like to have a conversation or otherwise with them. The Biden administration needs to finish the job. And the job is every American makes it out of there, and every Afghan soldier and translator who put their lives on the line because they believed in America, we need to come to their defense and aid now and get them out of harm's way.
Congressman Green, it seems odd when you stop for a second, because this has been going on for several days and we're all having these fevered conversations and talking to people, trying to help and coordinate any way that any of us can to try to get folks out of there. Does it strike you as just so odd that we would even be having a conversation about the potential that an American would not get out?
Of course. I mean, it is so un-American to think, you know, when myself and Congressman Waltz and many of the other veterans, I mean, any veteran, we take an oath, a code of conduct. We will leave no person behind, leave no person behind. And here we are as a nation. I mean, they admitted today in our briefing, they know Americans will be left there. And to say that is just, it's un-American. And it violates the very core of who we are as veterans and soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines. And to think, too, of the downstream effect of this, to believe that the G7 came out today and said, we need you, America, past the 31st, and the president still turned around and said, nope, we're out of here. I mean, our NATO allies, a UK, a member of parliament on the floor of the House of Commons calling the president shameful. I mean, it's just, this is insane.
Well, we had someone on last night, a veteran, Perry Blackburn, who is working, as many people are, around leadership. He said, you know, talking to people on the ground, talking to people at the gates, trying to do anything he can to help interpreters and people that worked with him get through. And today, this piece in the New York Times talks about a former CIA officer said that veterans and contacts in Afghanistan organized this operation to get some 500 SIV holders. They were considered at high risk of Taliban reprisals. They actually got them inside the gates at the airport. And then he says they were turned back at what he described as a State Department checkpoint. Congressman Waltz, who is running the show?
Unfortunately, that's a big part of the problem. The State Department is, and the Defense Department's in a supporting role. And yet today, when we presented Tony Blinken with that very scenario, he denied that it was happening. And I could tell you multiple instances just in my own office, much less the dozens of other offices that are running into this with American citizens that are being denied by the State Department after they've made it through multiple Taliban checkpoints. It's just mind-blowing, Shannon, that this is happening. But we do have many groups of former special operators, intelligence officers, and others that are taking matters into their own hands, that are getting the job done despite our own government working with the Taliban. I think they're the biggest part of the problem. Yeah. It's just mind-blowing.
Well, a lot of folks calling it a digital Dunkirk, and we know those operations are going on all over the place, and we wish them the very best. Congressman Green, Congressman Waltz, Ambassador, thank you all for being with us tonight.
Thanks, Shannon.
Thank you, Shannon.